Αραβικές χώρες που τόσο κοπίασε να φτιάξει το Τελ Αβίβ με τους συμμάχους του πλέον τίθενται εν αμφιβόλο. Τα κεκτημένα της έστω και ασθενικής ειρήνης στην περιοχή συνθλίβονται κάθε μέρα από τρομοκρατικές ρουκέτες, αεροβομβαρδισμούς και εγκλήματα πολέμου. Εμείς εντοπίσαμε και μιλήσαμε με έναν πρώην πράκτορα των μυστικών υπηρεσιών, ο οποίος εγκατέλειψε τις μυστικές υπηρεσίες της χώρας του για να φτιάξει τις δικές του, ιδιωτικές υπηρεσίες. Πρώτες του επιχειρήσεις, οι συγκρούσεις σε Ιράκ και Αφγανιστάν. Ο Τόνι Σχένα, της εταιρείας Mosaic, ζει ως επιτοπλίστων σε αεροπλάνα, εμπόλεμες ζώνες και γραφεία διαπραγμάτευσης. Μίλησε στο μεσημέρι και κάτι και έκανε τις δικές του εκτιμήσεις γύρω από τον πόλεμο, αλλά κυρίως σε σχέση με το μέλλον. Πώς ακριβώς όμως δουλεύει η εταιρεία του και τι κάνει στην πραγματικότητα?
I'm the founder and chairman of Mosaic. Mosaic stands for Multi-Operational Security Agency Intelligence Company. We are an intelligence-focused company that operates around the planet. I formed the company during sort of the Iraq-Afghan conflicts, and we work around the planet, focused on conflict resolution. The company works, in the civilian environment also in the major cities of the world. But since we come from that conflict area activity, that is still a focus because there is so much conflicts on the planet. So, for example, during the Ukraine, the current conflict, but when it actually began, that's when we are most active. That's when governments' hands are tied with bureaucracy, and that's when we can do the most work and be most effective. So in the very beginning, we had our country clients as well as corporate who have come to us for help. They wanted to move their citizens of, our country clients wanted to be moved out of Ukraine during this conflict. Once we achieved that and governments got more active, then we did other activities. I also moved my team that was in the Ukraine at the time to the border in order to monitor other activities because we have a charity linked with, for example, human trafficking. So I had them on the border then monitoring that type of situation. But in the very beginning, it was moving either our corporate clients or our country clients and their citizens out of that country. So negotiations in a loose term, a lot of it is behind closed doors. It may be setting up those very important meetings between strategic parties. Yes, we did do that in Russia, Ukraine. Yes, obviously it didn't work, but so have many others in many countries, right? Mm-hmm. But those arrangements we made were, with, the certain leaders or former leaders.
Τον ρωτήσαμε πώς βλέπει ο ίδιος τον πόλεμο στο Ισραήλ. Πόσο περίπλοκη είναι η συγκεκριμένη σύγκρουση και πώς είναι να έχεις απέναντί σου τρομοκράτες αντί για οργανωμένα κράτη?
Obviously super, super complex, and there's probably the most complex conflict we've seen in our lifetime and going to see. Negotiating with terrorists is again a difficult thing, but now we have Hamas was voted in, as the ruling party, so to speak, in Gaza. So just like Hezbollah in Lebanon. So there is room for negotiation because it's not like, say, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Al-Shabaab, who are pure terrorist organizations. And in fact, those terrorist organizations are critical of Hezbollah and Hamas because they're involved in administration and government. So I think because there is room at the right time. The only thing we can do is negotiate. We can't completely, obviously, which is going on. I don't want to get too political, but in Gaza, if there's no negotiation, the whole entire Gaza will be wiped out, and of course, civilians will die.
Φρίκη και ένα μέλλον δυσίωνο. Οι επιπτώσεις όμως δεν μένουν εκεί. Ο κίνδυνος εξάπλωσης είναι πέρα για πέρα υπαρκτός. Και αυτό μεγεθύνεται μέχρι τρόμου. Αν σκεφτεί κανείς ότι πέρα από τα οικονομικά συμφέροντα, ο πόλεμος μετατοπίζεται στο θρησκευτικό, αλλά και στο πολιτισμικό πεδίο της μάχης.
It's worldwide repercussions. The world is going to be so distinctly divided, and never before is there going to be so much hatred between two major religions. And those ramifications are going to be found all over in all corners of the planet. We're already seeing conflict between peoples in different countries, that type of hatred, not just because it's more focused on religion, and that's the most dangerous thing. We are politically divided already. Before that, we saw a distinct separation of economic groups, BRICS, those joining BRICS. We can see a big shift in world and perhaps economic world power. But now there is a further distinct divide, and religion is the opium of the people and can be used in so many terrible ways. Religion is a very important part that's going to cause worldwide ramifications. It is partially, and people will argue because this is a age-old conflict. Is it distinctly about that? No, I think it's more about the land. It's about occupation. But because it is two distinct religious groups, that causes worldwide ramifications. And that's very dangerous. I mean, we are in a time where it's almost becoming a perfect storm for really, terrible things to happen. When you have the U.S. showing two strike forces there, and I know it's a show of force, but what happens when others do the same, other superpowers? And this could escalate very quickly, and that's very dangerous. It's a very concerning time.
Δεν είναι λίγες όμως οι φωνές που ενώνουν τις τελείες. Ουκρανία, Αρμενία, Παλαιστίνη και γιατί όχι, Νότια Συνική Θάλασσα. Πάμε λοιπόν για τρίτο παγκόσμιο πόλεμο.
Over times, we have always contemplated that. We're going, wow, is this the time where we're going to see, a World War III? And people have spoken about it just like we are now. I think at this time, we are in a very concerning time because, the weaponry we have, our weapons of mass destruction, the separation we have in the world, the hatred between these two big religions, the worldwide ramifications, distinct groups, economic, politically, whether you have China, Russia, Iran, and then on the other side, and others, right, we could join in very easily. That is a recipe for potential disaster, and it is in the symbolic Holy Land, which, negotiation needs to obviously take place. Otherwise, this will escalate, when people ask me in the very beginning about, say, for example, another conflict going on, Russia and Ukraine, I said, Russia and Ukraine will end up like Israel and Palestine, right? No one's going to give in. It's going to be a fight about land, and it's just going to continue for many years, right? Now we're looking at Israel-Palestine more closely because this is obviously what's now happened. It's escalated to a degree that I hope Ukraine and Russia won't, because this is really going to, potentially spin out of control. And unfortunately, I think it is. I do not see a very quick solution for this because of the deepened hatred. And this is a major concern.
Ο πόλεμος λοιπόν κινδυνεύει να κλιμακωθεί, να ξεφύγει από τα στενά γεωγραφικά όρια της Μέσης Ανατολής. Τι γίνεται με όλους αυτούς που βρίσκονται με το δάχτυλο στη σκανδάλη?
Well, I think there's escalations, right? There's escalation of this war would then prompt other things. I think we're going into a new era of terrorism, right? This, you have other groups on the sidelines who are watching this and planning and ready to either support or show what they can do for the greater cause, their cause. Now that's Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, ISIS, and Hamas, of course, are all Sunni groups. And then on the other side, you have Hezbollah, who's Shia. Does Hamas and Hezbollah talk? Absolutely they do. Hezbollah is just standing on the sidelines right now. But once it commits, it then, obviously the biggest sponsor is Iran. They're a proxy of Iran. So that makes it a much bigger conflict. But those on the sidelines that people are forgetting about, who are very powerful groups too, ISIS still exists. Right, Al-Qaeda is still, very much so has power, and I think what we're going to see is, those conflicts, not really conflicts now, terrorism will spread once again, including, with Hezbollah and its cells. It has cells all over the planet, and if those become active, we'll go into the new age of terrorism and will disrupt our society again.
Μαζί με τον κίνδυνο αυξάνεται και ο φόβος. Και όταν μιλάμε για φόβο, η εξάπλωση της τρομοκρατίας στη Δύση έχει τον πρώτο λόγο.
Absolutely. It'll escalate in Europe. Unfortunately, I think it'll, in the U.S. also. If Hezbollah commits and the U.S. retaliates and there's just a bit of sort of tit for tat there, then they will be triggered, and then we will see terrorism in the U.S. and Europe again. And to me, it'll definitely happen. It's just part of the course. Because they're all the same cause, right? It's all to disrupt, our society, and they have a common enemy. So those, ISIS made a big statement. Al-Qaeda made its big statement. Now they're watching Hamas do that. They never aided Hamas before in Palestine. They were on the sidelines, really. But now, with a common enemy, I think we're going to go in a completely new age of terrorism.
Το βλέμμα λοιπόν στην επόμενη μέρα. Τι θα συμβεί όταν όλα καταλαγιάσουν, τι κόσμος θα ξημερώσει, είμαστε ένα βήμα πριν από μια νέα εποχή.
I feel it is of such great importance this time that there's going to be maybe firstly a divide in the world, like I've already stated, potential changes in power, in world powers. I think we're going into a new era, an era of economic division, political division, and then hopefully not a bigger conflict. We're in a very critical stage. I mean, most people I speak with, they're very concerned in the beginning of these conflicts. And then, humans are quite interesting. We kind of just, it becomes less and less important by the day. And the news will inundate you with stuff, but it's not as impactful as the beginning. But this time, it really needs to be watched closely because we're at a very critical time. And this could very easily escalate. And unfortunately, I think it's going to escalate to a degree before it potentially gets better. And I hope it gets better.
Ποιος είναι ο μεγάλος παίχτης της επόμενης ημέρας? Ποιος θα είναι ο νέος μηνόταυρος της νέας εποχής που θα αναλάβει το ρόλο του ρυθμιστή και του μεγάλου αφεντικού? Οι Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, η Κίνα ή κάποιος άλλος?
For this conflict, I would say the US would need to something quite large would need to happen to bring the US back to the policeman and economic world power, the number one. I think through the years we've seen the rise, of course, of China. I know it has its own economic problems right now, but this division now, like I said before, economically with BRICS, with Saudi Emirates also joining and others, Argentina, etc., and apparently many applying to join. We're in this very interesting time on the planet where there's going to be division on various fronts. With the BRICS group, there could be the rise of, the bigger economic power. With Saudi also joining and Emirates also makes it very interesting. So I would watch China very closely, like we always do. Hopefully it does not get engaged in this conflict and stays out of it, because then we have really two of the world superpowers on opposite ends, which it isn't now. China's trying to be the solution. They're trying to promote engagement and talks and resolution to this, but we hope this doesn't escalate into something else.
Λοιπόν, αυτά από την πολύ ενδιαφέρουσα συνέντευξη, θα τα σχολιάσουμε και σε λίγο. Πάμε όμως στον Υπουργό Εργασίας που κάνει δηλώσεις.